Hello and welcome, I am the Sterling and today we will be playing Going Medieval. In the last episode, we built the farmland and we stuffed it up. So in this episode, I'm going to rectify this. So sit back, grab a cold one, and let's get started. So let's talk about the farmland. Yes, I've made a mistake. Not on the layout, so to speak, but as a whole. For you see, the whole concept of us building under the mountain is for it to almost be a building itself and then have buildings within a building. So what do I mean by this? Well, basically the whole idea behind this was that doesn't matter if it's in the middle of summer and we're going to heat wave or the middle of winter with a cold snap, it doesn't affect anybody under the mountain because it is enclosed, immune from the environment and isolated. And as I said in the last episode, no longer are these beds classed as being inside. Because why? Because we went ahead and put 4 dirty great big holes in the roof, making building under the mountain no good. Now look, it is something that we had to do so we could grow crops. It's a necessity. But the way I've gone and done it is incorrect. You see, at the moment, these farms are a part of the rest of the mountain, when in reality, they should actually be enclosed and be in rooms of their own that are isolated from the rest of the mountain. So only the fields and our forests are actually classed as being outside, just like you'd expect. And then the rest of the mountain would be enclosed. Now I'm going to go and hit pause. Why? Well, because we are on day 4 of autumn. And as I mentioned in the last episode, we're just around the corner from winter and it's going to be harsh. And we're going to need time to enclose all these fields that because of the date, we just don't have. I'm going to go back on my word and do something I said in the last episode I wasn't going to do. I'm going to go ahead and build a mini little barracks, something to house our villagers. That way when winter strikes and this joint's just freezing, these poor buggers ain't going to die. But before I do that, the first thing I need to do is work out how exactly I'm going to build this. I know the logistics behind it. Essentially, we're just going to build walls, but I'm not sure what we're going to actually make them out of. Because I know that depending on the material we use is how well it actually stops the heat or the cold getting in and out through the wall, whether it be dirt, limestone, timber. And so I want to do a little test and see which is the best material to actually use as the walls. So welcome to my R&D. This is just one of my saves where I play silly buggers and do tests on certain theories I have. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and flattened a big part of the map, as you can see. What I've done is I've gone and built 7 mock-up buildings. Now, as you've probably already noticed, they're exactly the same size as our farmlands, and it's the exact same layout for our pillars, as you can see by this one here. But they're all built slightly different. This middle one here is the control. It is exactly what we have now. This one here is a single line of bricks with corner pillars. This one here is a double wall of limestone bricks. This one here is a single line of dirt with the pillars still intact. And this one is a double wall of dirt with the pillars still intact. And then finally, the last 2 are these ones here, both completely made out of dirt. Single wall, double wall. I've already put doors in where the doors will actually be on the real version. And I've gone ahead and put a layer of dirt for each of them as the ceiling. Now, obviously, when we do build the walls to separate the farmland from the rest of the city, it's going to be working in reverse. But essentially, the physics are the same. Now, my idea is we're going to go ahead and in the middle of winter, during a cold snap, I'm going to test the temperature outside and then the temperatures of all the buildings. And then once I have the readings for winter, I'll then go ahead and test in the middle of summer during a heat wave and see just how hot it gets in each one of these rooms. And then I'll be able to determine what material is best for building our walls inside. Preferably, I hope it's limestone that wins, as limestone bricks will be the easiest to construct the walls inside the mountain. But at the very least, the limestone cross dirt, I hope that ends up just as good or somewhere in the ballpark. For if I have to completely rebuild all the pillars out of dirt, we're going to have quite a few issues, and I'm not 100% sure I know how I'm actually going to pull that off. Now, coming into the heat map, if you have a look, at this very moment, it is 19.8 degrees outside. In the control, it is 11.6. So under the roof does actually make quite a big difference, but it's irrelevant to the test we're doing at the moment. The single walled limestone is 6.6. The double walled limestone is 6 degrees. The single walled dirt with limestone pillars is at 7.9. Double walled dirt with pillars is 10.3. Completely dirt single wall is 11.5. And then double walled dirt is 13.3. At the moment, it is looking good for our limestone counterparts, either single wall or double wall. Not much of a difference between the two, but still there is a difference. Now, welcome to winter, and we're in the middle of a cold snap. I've allowed the game to run on a little bit, just so then the room temperatures can change and settle, and we're almost in the dead of night. So this should give us a good reading. So now I'm testing each room in the same place. So let's bring up the heat map. So an outside temperature at this very moment is minus 12.7. It is blisteringly cold. But considering in the double limestone room, it is minus 0.7. In the single limestone, it is minus 2.2. In the control with no walls, it's minus 8.2. That there is the temperature that under the mountain will actually hit at this very moment. That's shocking. Next is the limestone pillars with the single dirt walls, and that's about 0.1 degree. Looking better. The double dirt wall with limestone pillars is 1.2 degrees. The single dirt wall is 0.1 degree, and then the double dirt wall is 0.12. Now looking at that, when it comes to the cold, limestone doesn't keep the cold out. So that's not good. That's really not good. I'm not happy about that. Luckily, doesn't look like between the double dirt wall and the double dirt wall with pillars, not much of a difference. So that there, at the very least, adds promise that maybe all we have to do is add dirt walls and I won't have to knock down the limestone brick walls to then add dirt pillars. It's still very early in this experiment to go making any theories just yet. Now let's test this out in the middle of summer during a heat wave. Now welcome to summer. Through what the game considers a heat wave. It is 26 degrees. And as an Australian, I wouldn't call that a heat wave. Geez, that's more like spring weather than a heat wave. But anyway, it's 26 degrees outside and under the control, it is 20.8, which is actually quite a big difference. Shade makes a big difference in this game. Now, as for the double limestone wall, it's 6.6. The single limestone wall is a big difference at 9.3 degrees. Single dirt wall with limestone pillars is 7.4. The double dirt walls with limestone pillars is 5.5 degrees. The single dirt walls is 7.2 degrees. And the double dirt walls is 5.6. So what does that tell us? Well, after looking at my findings, the winner for both summer and winter was the double dirt walls, as I suspected. But what I didn't expect and what actually surprised me is there is bugger all difference between the double dirt walls with the limestone pillars and the double dirt wall. That's a big surprise to me. I honestly would have thought that having limestone pillars would have actually put it somewhere closer to the limestone itself. But I guess each individual block works on its own and not as a collective. I don't know. This is why we did the test. And so we're going to go with the double dirt walls with the limestone pillars. That way, we don't have to knock down any pillars. So this is fantastic news. But truth be told, looking at the limestone, during winter, it did terrible. Don't get me wrong. But during summer, it actually works quite well. The hottest it got was in the single limestone wall at 9.4. That's not bad. Though, in saying that, the single limestone wall also got -2 in winter. So we'll just palm over that. We're now back in the real game, loaded with information. So now we're more than ready to start repairing our mistake. And because it's a mistake, I'm going to call it our mistake, not my mistake. I'm just sharing the love. But as I said earlier in the episode, before we go and do that, we do have to take care of building them a little barracks. Now, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to build a little structure here around what they've already got, and then we can start the grueling task of building up the soil walls. You never know. Might even get it done before winter. Doubt it though. Fantastic. That's the walls now complete. And I actually did it a lot faster than I thought I would. It's now day 12 of autumn. It was just more fiddly and annoying than actually time consuming. They do build dirt quite quickly. And now we're just going around fixing up the floors. We've taken the ladders away, all that sort of jazz. And on top of all of that, we didn't lose the roof, which that's another positive. I was a bit nervous about that as well. So after all that, we didn't actually need the barracks, but it's better to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. Sadly though, it's definitely changed the feel now. This side here and down here, not so bad. It sort of all blends in. But down the center, I'm not a big fan of how straight these lines are. So moving forwards, I'm either going to maybe rough this up by putting some more soil in and sort of curving it over into like a tunnel, or I might get a little clever and find some way to actually utilize it. Maybe I can build some more buildings up there. I don't know. I'll work it out as we go along. So now that brings us on to the next part of the episode. For a long time, our food has just been sitting here, rotting due to the fact there tends to be braziers far too close to the food. And so now it's about time we actually find a better way to store our food. Now, traditionally, you would build an underground cellar, but it's a bit hard when we're already underground. We can't actually go any lower, as where the river is right now is the lowest depth we can actually go. So if we actually dig down and build a cellar anywhere under the mountain, it isn't going to work because you need layers of soil above. So what's the alternative? Let's start digging into here. The plan is that I'm going to put a door right here next to the seed shack and then start tunneling into this section here. We'll make the wall at the front 2 layers thick to make sure that no heat can get in, and then we'll build a cavern where we can store all our food. And then that way, we can just keep expanding as big as we need it to be. And have a look at all the construction going on the side. Have a look at this, we're getting the roof done. We must be raking in the iron. So rather than sitting here, blabbering on, talking about the food cellar, let's just start digging it. Fantastic, we finally have a proper food cellar. And I believe I would have made a lot of people very happy. I know I am. Now I don't have to worry about how much food that we actually collect because it's going to last, which is good. And on that note, as you can see, I've started slaughtering animals. I started a few days ago. I'm slaughtering the older animals before the younger, of course. On day 3 of winter, we had 1,700 fodder. Now on day 6, we have 1,500 fodder. So we're not going through it all that quickly, but better safe than sorry, we still are early in winter. Now, a couple of things about the food cellar. One, as you can tell, all the shelving is off the walls, which will help preserve the food. And I've also left space in the corners of the room, so then I can add ice blocks if need be later. But there's also another little nifty secret. I have a tunnel to the surface, as you can see. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Sterling, why on earth would you do that? I've done that. So during winter, we can actually open up this door over here and allow this to get nice and cold. Then I just have to remember to close that door before spring hits. Otherwise, we're going to have an issue in here. At the moment, we're sitting on about -3 degrees inside here. But what's actually really scary, it's colder inside the mountain at the moment at -5, almost -6 degrees. Telling me that building these walls really didn't help because it's almost the same temperature within these walls as it is outside these walls. But I'm sure once we start building buildings and filling this all out, and then I start adding braziers, torches, all that sort of jazz, this then will start collecting some heat. I suspect the reason this area is so cold is purely because of its vast size. The larger the area, the harder it is to keep warm. In the end, I decided to make the dirt cellar walls 3 layers thick because the ceiling above was more than 3 layers thick. So I figured it wouldn't hurt. I've also built it off to the side here, as you can see. So if I do go ahead and decide to extend our seed shack, I have room to expand without interfering with our cellar. Moving forwards, we can also then connect another food cellar directly to here and branch it out here. And then we can branch another one out here if we want. So we could have 3 times the size we have now. Or I could just go ahead and keep expanding out sideways. I have plenty of options moving forwards when it comes to food. Just kind of depends on how much I'm actually going to store. Now I just have to go through and start deleting the ladders in the tunnel. Not that the enemy would actually be able to get down all the way, as, well, the ladder doesn't go all the way. Eventually I will want to put a steel grate on top as well, but it's not necessarily important. Now I mentioned I did not like this section here, and I've been looking at the size of the warehouse compared to the sheer amount of limestone we have, and I'm going, we're never going to be able to store enough. It's always going to be out the front here, and frankly I don't like it out the front. I'm thinking that I could actually have a bit of a play with this area and actually be able to build quite a vast warehouse for all our limestone. But the actual process of doing it eludes me at the moment. It might be a simple thing of just a few layers. I could go as low as here, giving us 3 entire layers of storage, but then this will be quite narrow. But then I could arch this and have arches that go across and do a whole thing with it. But at this point, as I said, I'm not sure how I'd actually go about doing it, as I couldn't just build ladders up to it because we need the dogs to be able to get up. So there does need to be stairs. So it could be that the stairs run in through this section here. But if I commit to that, the moving forwards, it might cut off my nose to spite my face. I don't know. Hence, I do need to have a bit more of a play, especially before I go and commit. Because even though I don't like the storage being out the front here, it's not hurting anybody being there and it's not in the way. So that might have to stay there for a moment. But regardless, this sounds like a problem for future Sterling, because unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.